Love Actually. We all watch that film every year. Do you?
No. No. I hadn't watched it for years and years and years, and I think 2 years ago I sat down and watched it for the first time, and actually I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
Do you love the Beatles?
Yeah.
Beatles or Stones?
Beatles.
Yay!
Beatles.
He's telling the truth. Beatles. Anybody says the Stones is lying.
Very
what about
nice
chess? Can you play chess?
No. I mean, I know how to play chess.
Well, good. Which was important because of why?
Because, on Queen's Gambit, we had grandmasters.
By the way, just the Queen's Gambit he was in as well. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's quite a mad story.
So
really.
it's the story of the Sex Pistols.
It's the story of the Sex Pistols, the rise of the Sex Pistols. And I play Malcolm McLaren, who's another madman. All these characters, if you were coming up with them on your own, you'd think they were way too over the top.
Yeah.
It's only because they are real people that you even dare to go that far. And I met my wife on that show too. She played Vivian. Yeah.
Vivian West.
We all fell in love, actually, with our next guest over 20 years ago, and he's been nothing but brilliant on the big screen and in our tellies ever since. He now stars in Wolf Hall, The Mirror and the Light on BBC One and the iPlayer every Sunday. So please join us in our own little Sangster's Paradise with Thomas Brodie-Sangster.
That's good. That's
very good.
Round of applause for Thomas.
Thank
But
you.
also, round of applause for Sangster's Paradise. Who came up with that?
Me.
Was it actually you?
What do you mean? Was it actually you?
Actually, we're in an actually mood. We got a Love Actually star on. Was it you, actually?
Yeah, it was actually.
You happy with Sangster's Paradise?
I think that sounds great. I'll be visiting soon.
Loads of people have written loads about you. Good morning, by the way. Welcome.
Good morning.
You are more than welcome. We're very excited
Thank
to
you,
talk to
thank
you.
you.
You seem like a very, very nice human being. We could do with some lessons. But have you ever read the headline, Sangster's Paradise, about you?
No, never.
See, how
It's a first.
lazy are writers? You're not even a writer. Yeah. I mean, you've written 4 books, but...
3.5.
Well, 4.
Yes, 4. The other one's
Yet to
not
be
out.
published. I read so much about you yesterday. So much about you. Because we'll talk about Wolf Hall. Of course we're going to talk about Wolf Hall. That's what you're here to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but first of all, after reading loads about you, straight in with the cars. 1974 Citroen DS.
Oh, yeah.
Discuss.
I've always loved that car, and we were thinking about getting rid of our family Astra, and we were looking through the adverts, and Golfs were coming up, and then a white Citroen DS came up, and I just thought it was the most amazing shape ever. And my mum always liked them too, and so it was the first thing I really bought with money I'd made on film. So at 15, we went and bought a dark green Citroen, and we've had it ever since.
Good for you. I mean, the story just got cooler. A, it's a great pick, so congratulations. B, you picked it when you were 15 and bought it when you were 15, and you've had it ever since.
Yeah. At school, when we got dropped off at school, it split the crowd, actually. Some people thought it was genuinely very ugly.
Did they, though? That's like saying when we play the Beatles Rolling Stones game, some people say the Rolling Stones, but they don't mean it. They were just being contrary. Because you had one and they didn't, and you bought it with your own money.
Maybe it was just pure jealousy.
Yeah. Did you buy that with the Love Actually money?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
One of the coolest films ever. Buy one of the coolest films. When could you drive? How old were you when you could drive?
Oh, this is actually the most embarrassing part, is that I only passed my test when I was 27.
That's not what I asked you. I said, when could you drive?
Well, I was driving motorbikes a lot longer before then.
Right.
So I got into bikes first, and then I used to work at a garage fixing up DSs.
Did you actually?
Yeah, and the head mechanic there, he used to ride bikes, so I just thought bikes was the coolest thing.
You worked at a classic car garage?
Yeah.
What a laugh. Where was that?
That was in Battersea. It's gone now. It was called DS World. But it was I worked there from about 15 through to about 17.
So you know your stuff as well?
A bit.
Loads of other stuff we could talk to you about. I suppose we must talk to you about Wolf Hall, because that's why you dragged your ass all the way up here to the... Thanks for coming in, by the way.
Oh, no, it's great.
It's great to meet you.
Yeah,
Seriously,
good
great
to meet
to
you
meet
too.
you. So Wolf Hall, I mean, the big story is, apart from Hilary Mantel's amazing trilogy, is the fact that here we are, 9-10 years after the first and only series,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, I thought I just missed a load, and I watched it yesterday and thinking, oh, this is the second series.
Yeah.
So just speak to that if you don't mind for a
10
second.
years, yeah. I mean, I don't know of any other show that's done that, because it came out the first series, and did very well, and it was great. And then we were basically just waiting for Hilary to write the third book, and she was in touch with Peter Kosminski, who directed the show.
Yeah.
all the way through the writing process, kind of keeping him filled in, so that he knew what to do with the series when the time came. And then COVID got in the way as well, and then Hillary died. So it's just taken a long time. But when we finally said, okay, let's come back, let's do it, everyone turned up. So we had all the crew were back.
Same crew.
Everyone had aged about 10 years.
Apart from you.
Yeah, except me.
As usual.
It was very bizarre. We were back in pretty much the same costumes, the same locations, with the same people, doing the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was quite bizarre. I'd never experienced that before.
Well, you say everybody turned up, and you have said this before, so hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot. There is one exception, and he is conspicuous by his absence.
Oh, Tom Holland.
Spider-Man,
yeah, no. Yeah, no, Spider-Man didn't turn up, but he's in New York, so he's saving people.
He really is, because he's got his beer company now. You know about his beer company?
No.
He's got his Zero Beer Company.
Oh, does he?
Beero, yeah.
Beero.
His Beero, Zero Beer. It's great. It's genius.
Oh, wow.
I love
good.
him for it, because he's gone teetotal.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah.
It's so cool. Imagine if he did turn up in some ye olde Spider-Man costume. Because Spider-Man, for any kids listening, Spider-Man's been around forever. So there was ye olde Spider-Man as well.
Yeah, I don't think it goes quite back to the Tudor age, but...
Well, I don't know. I mean, let's never say never. And also, some of the outfits in Wolf Hall, they're quite Spider-Man-y. They're quite, that's what... the garb.
It is quite tight at the bottom, yeah.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's all very big and puffy up top, though.
Yeah, but, he's got to have an adversary, hasn't he? That's the big, puffy Marvel people, You do say, and you have said, that that a lot of your job on Wolf Hall is to watch Damian Lewis and some Mark Rylance just go at each other. What's it like to be in those particular pound seats?
It's fascinating, really. They're both brilliant in the show, I think, and it's just a pleasure to sit back and watch them go and then see also how it changes from when we first get in the room, start throwing it around in rehearsals, and then what we end up in the end is normally a lot more stripped down. Like they just slowly act less and less, and they end up at this really kind of nuanced version of what the scene is.
I love that.
And it's all hidden, so all the kind of, they come in with all the tension and the bravado and the noise, and it's right at the beginning of the day, but by the end that's still there, but somehow they're not saying it.
That's so fascinating. I've interviewed thousands of actors. I've never heard anybody say that before. They go at it and they gradually act less and less and less until they get to the right level. And there you are in the moment with them, and everything that says and everything that happens suddenly becomes unbelievably important because there's so little going on, and there's so much stillness in the scene that you can literally hear a pin drop, and that's sort of where you want to be.
Exactly, yeah. But it's very hard to do that because it takes a lot of courage from a production company, really, to allow that amount of silence and stillness to exist. Yeah, people want things that are snappy and fast-paced and heavy editing. And it's not, so often shows aren't given time to breathe. Exactly what I said to Jane, wasn't it, before? I said this just because I said to Jane, I was watching it, it was brilliant, but I'm thinking, I said it was absolutely brilliant, but there wasn't that much going on. And in the world of like cinematic universe and Netflix, this, that and the other, and, online pinging and dinging, it was so silent almost. I mean, obviously there was script, there's words, and I came in this morning saying exactly the same thing. Now, all that you've just said there, they say less and less and less. They do less and less and less until hardly anything happens. But therefore, everything can happen. Isn't that the strategy that you used going for auditions? You've talked about that before. Yes, I did less. You said I went in there and I did less and less. Yeah, and it wasn't what they were expecting. Because I'm quite a shy person. I never liked drama at school. I didn't really like other acting kids. They were quite loud and annoying, and the last thing I wanted to be was one of them. I found it a bit grotesque. So all I liked was, I like sitting on the tube and getting the bus to school and, seeing the difference between people and That's what's interesting to me, and trying to have a go at mimicking that and making it as real and believable as possible. Even at that age, that's what I found interesting.
You said
about
you
it.
went into auditions, didn't you? And you did the opposite of what people expected.
Yeah. I would almost do it intentionally, maybe almost too much. I would underplay the whole thing because I felt kind of embarrassed on behalf of everyone.
People who didn't want to be
my
on
responsibility
stage.
to do as little as possible.
And it worked, didn't it?
And well, it did. At that age, it did work. Yeah.
How did you get the gig in Love Actually?
My first ever job was a little BBC production called Station Gym, which no one's really seen. It's not really known. It had a great cast, but I was playing this little Victorian orphan with a West Country accent, and one of the few people that I do know that watched it was Richard Curtis and Emma, and he said, "Oh, I want that kid in the new movie that I'm making with I've got this little kid that has to fall in love, and but we need to get rid of that West Country accent."
Which you didn't have.
Which I didn't have at all.
So that was not a problem.
No, that wasn't a problem at all.
So when did you get the call? How did you get the call? How did you know about it? What happened next?
Well, I knew that he wanted me, and I didn't really know anything about it at all. I'd never watched any of Richard Curtis's stuff. Well, I'd watched a bit of Blackadder, actually.
Yeah, well, you were only like 11.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. And I was in France at the time. I was filming something else, and I couldn't make it back for the audition. And then he ended up paying for my flight to fly back just to audition for
That's
him.
the way he rolls.
Which I thought was just, well, okay. Well, if I'll come.
Yeah, he wants his man.
I asked the production that I was on, and they okayed me and found a gap for me to fly back. He flew me back. I went and auditioned for him. Just read the scenes very loosely, and that was it.
We all watch that film every year. Do you?
No, no.
Just because you're in it.
I watched it at the premieres, and actually, I did really enjoy it. It was very fun. That was the first premieres I'd been to.
So much happens in that film.
It was great, but I hadn't watched it for years and years and years. And I think 2 years ago, I sat down and watched it for the first time, and actually, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
Because it's an amazing film.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
You learned to play the drums for the film.
Yes.
Okay, and can you still play the drums?
Ish. Yes.
Do you have a drum kit?
Yeah, I have one of those electric ones.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
So nobody doesn't annoy anyone.
It's a very annoying instrument. Yeah.
I would get a drum kit today if I were you.
They're great though. You can just, you don't have to worry about chords.
No.
You can go in and just unleash some energy.
You're in
on a drum kit.
Nowhere Boy. You play Paul McCartney in Nowhere Boy.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favourite films. I love that film.
Oh.
I love all the Beatles films. Backbeat is probably my favourite Beatles film. And now you can play the guitar. You're right-handed. You learned to play the guitar left-handed. That's punchy, my friend.
It's horrible. I don't recommend it. It's not nice because it's frustrating because you can play it.
Yeah.
But switching it around, yeah. I mean, even the strumming hand would bleed because you can't even hold the plectrum properly.
It's funny, isn't it? And you're not physically creating an action that's conducive to playing. It's just self-harm.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the hardest when you reverse your hands on the guitar? Is which hand has the hardest job? The chord shaping hand or the strumming hand?
I mean, it's definitely the chord shaping hand, but I was surprised at how crap the left hand was as well.
So the chord shaping hand has the most difficulty, but the hand that's most in peril from a physical point of view is the strumming hand.
I think so. That's the one I seem to keep cutting on the strings.
It's like a mandolin, isn't it? In the end, you go like a mandolin. You've got to stay away from those top strings. They're far too sharp. The cheese gratery for their own good. Do you do music as well as playing?
Not really.
Right, okay.
No, I love music, but no, I don't have the time to be. I think if you want to be in a band as well, you've got to commit to being able to turn up for gigs. And I get a call and I have to go away for 5 months.
Have you ever had a Paul McCartney experience?
Met him? Mm-hmm. No, never
met
have.
him?
No.
Wow.
No, there was word that he might come to the premiere of Nowhere Boy, but
Do you love the Beatles?
Yeah,
Beatles or Stones?
Beatles.
Yay! He's
Beatles.
telling the truth.
Beatles.
Anybody says the Stones is lying.
I do love the Stones.
No,
but
so do I. Hang on a minute. Stones are right up there. But then there's the Beatles.
Yeah, the Beatles are the greatest band.
Yeah, there are stars, then there's the sun. Yeah, there are pebbles, then there's the Grand Canyon. Don't get me wrong, there are nice pebbles and nice shells, but then there's the Grand Canyon, etc., etc., etc. So you also build. You're a builder. You're a man of all trades. It would seem here.
I do like
You're
to build
very
things.
chilled. I knew you were going to be like this.
Oh, good.
Because you are just you you're very happy in your own skin. Tell us about your building, your wood carving, your construction at home on your small holding.
I like. I've always liked Lego. When I was a kid, I loved Lego, and it's basically just grown up Lego. I like what it does to your mind, especially being an actor. You know, being an actor is a weird job.
Yeah.
You can get very lost in your own thoughts, and so it's quite good to kind of complement that, to have something where you create something.
Yeah, and you're off.
And you're off.
Yeah.
And you're using a different part of your brain. I think that's, whatever that is, I think that's good.
All I did yesterday was I just cleaned cars all day. That's what I did. And I was just off cleaning cars. And then, you know, I go home, the family are home, and then I try and keep fit for a bit, and then I go to bed, I read all the stuff about you, I watch Wolf Hall ready for the show, and I come in and I'm clean for today. And it's so important, isn't it, I think? Mm-hmm. I think so.
Cleaning cars, that's a nice thing to do.
Yeah. What about chess? Can you play chess?
No. I mean, I know how to play chess.
Well, good. Which was important because of why?
Because, on Queen's Gambit, we had grandmasters.
By the way, just the Queen's Gambit he was in as well. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, cool. No, that's interesting, because that was a show about chess, and nobody wanted to make that. They tried for about 15, 20 years trying to make that, and no one wanted it. And Netflix came along and said, can you make it into a series? And they rewrote it for a series, and then it came out and did really, really well.
Big stuff, man. And working with Danny Boyle.
Yeah.
Tell us about Danny Boyle. I watched it. We had Danny in talking about it. Tell people what was
did you?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Danny's great. He's got such energy.
Yeah.
And such passion for kind of untold underdog stories.
Yeah, yeah.
And Sex Pistols are obviously very well known, but he wanted to make a show that showed the gritty, kind of quite sad story of the state of England at the time.
Yeah.
And how this group of angry young youths rose out of that and screamed and shouted at the world and connected with a lot of people, which is quite a mad story.
So it's the story of the Sex Pistols.
It's the story of the Sex Pistols, the rise of the Sex Pistols. And I play Malcolm McLaren, who's another madman. All these characters, if you were coming up with them on your own, you'd think they were way too over the top.
Yeah.
It's only because they are real people that you even dare to go that far.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing person to play, and working with Danny's brilliant. He's a genius and a lovely man too. And I met my wife on that show too. She played Vivian. Yeah.
Vivian West. Those scenes are great in the shop, by the way. And Chrissy Hind, you know, because the shop assistant was Chrissy Hind.
Yeah.
Unbelievable story. I didn't know any of that. Malcolm McLaren is a really interesting character, because we all know from various representations of people on screen, in books, it's the written word at the end of the day. Nobody really is that articulate or that witty or that erudite, apart from Malcolm McLaren, who I met, and he was literally like that in real life. He just had it, didn't he?
Yeah, that was bizarre. Doing the research for him was daunting but fascinating, because I'd listen to an interview over and over and over and try and get the nuance of his voice, and then I'd find a different interview and he'd have a completely different voice.
I know. And he didn't converse; he just made statements. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He never had an exchange with anybody. I think I may have interviewed him, I can't remember. But you wouldn't have an exchange with Malcolm McLaren. He would just come. He's a bit like Bob Geldof, is exactly the same. But still, Bob comes in and just talks.
Really?
Yeah. There is you can go home. You can go home and come back later and he won't notice. Same kind of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's got something to convey to the world. Wolf Hall, I only saw episode 1.
I've only seen episode 1.
All right. Well, it's great, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah.
Let's hope the next 5 are just as good. How many did you watch, Vassos?
I was only allowed to watch 1 because my wife just said, you can't watch any more without me.
Right.
Total ban. She absolutely loved it. And I loved it. I thought it was just... We recently watched Rivals, so we were,
similar.
Right into the 1980s, yes. And then we watched American Hustle, which is right in the 1970s, and then you're so in this sort of Henry VIII's court and world. I just find it fascinating. I got up and I felt like I was, in a world where there are executions and scheming and stuff like that. It was just
dastardly goings on and daring do.
Well done.
Pre-Dickensian daring do.
In, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's such a famous period of history.
Yeah.
We all know a lot about it, and we recognise the visual aspects of things from that Tudor period, and of course Henry. But this perspective, Cromwell's perspective, really brings it at a human level. and therefore I think makes it a lot more horrifying.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it's great. You're great. Great to meet you, man.
Lovely to meet you too.
If you want to come and hang out at Carfest one year and drive some cars around the track, or
Love
do whatever
to.
you want to do,
Always up for that.
Bring the DS Massive with you. Brilliant. Fix a few cars while you can, because there's lots break down at Carfest. All right, thank you very much. Can we have a round of applause, please, for our lovely guest this morning? Here he is, Thomas Brodie-Sangster.
Thank you very much.
The Sangster's Paradise is now officially closed for business, but Wolf Hall is very much open for business. Thank you very much indeed.